The call came in just before dusk, painting the already grim scene with the urgency of fading light. A dog, somehow, had fallen into the narrow, lightless depths of an abandoned mine shaft on the outskirts of town, a relic of a forgotten industrial past. Unstable, uncharted, and utterly treacherous. No one knew how long she'd been down there. Days, perhaps. A hiker, drawn by faint, intermittent whimpers carried on the wind, had finally pinpointed the source, a ragged hole in the earth, partially obscured by thorny overgrowth, plunging into terrifying darkness. Maria Fuentes, head of the county's volunteer technical animal rescue team, arrived with her core crew, Alex and Ben, their truck loaded with ropes, harnesses, lights, and a heavy sense of foreboding. Peering down the shaft, their powerful flashlights barely penetrated the oppressive blackness. The air rising from below felt cold, damp, carrying the metallic temps of stagnant water and decay. And then they heard it. A weak, pitiful cry that echoed strangely off unseen walls. "How deep, you reckon?" Ben asked, his voice hushed, already assessing the crumbling edges of the shaft opening. "Hard to say, 30, maybe 40 feet. And narrow," Maria replied, her brow furrowed. "And who knows what debris is down there with her, or what the air quality is like." This wasn't a simple lift. The shaft walls looked unstable, loose rock and crumbling earth threatening to collapse further. Sending a human down was incredibly risky, bordering on reckless. Using a catch pole from above was impossible, given the depth and narrowness. A baited trap might work, but could take days, time the dog clearly didn't have. The whimpers were growing weaker. Tears pricked at Maria's eyes, frustration mixing with a surge of desperate determination. Leaving the dog was unthinkable. They had to try. Hope, fragile but insistent, pushed back against the rising tide of despair. Their best, perhaps only option was a specialized lowering and retrieval system using a modified harness. Operated remotely if possible, or guided by someone rappelling alongside. A last resort given the shaft's instability. They worked quickly, efficiently, setting up anchors in the solid rock further back from the treacherous edge, the setting sun casting long, eerie shadows. Every rustle of rock, every gust of wind felt ominous. Alex, the team's climbing specialist, meticulously checked ropes and carabiners. Air monitors showing low oxygen levels 10 feet down, he reported grimly. Gets worse further in. And traces of methane. We can't linger down there. The plan became even more precarious. Lower a small camera first to assess the dog's condition and exact location, then attempt a rapid retrieval using a wide webbing sling maneuvered beneath her, hoping she was too weak to struggle against it. Sending someone down was off the table unless absolutely unavoidable. The camera descended, relaying grainy infrared images to a small monitor. There she was, huddled on a small ledge just above dark, murky water, looking impossibly small and frail. A medium-sized dog, maybe a shepherd mix, her fur matted with mud and grime. She lifted her head weakly towards the camera's light, letting out another heart-wrenching whimper. She was alive, but barely. One leg seemed twisted at an unnatural angle. "Okay, she's reachable," Maria breathed, relief warring with anxiety. "Let's get the sling ready. Ben, you work the winch. Alex, guide the lines. Gently, people, very gently." Lowering the wide, soft sling into the narrow shaft required painstaking precision. Snagged on unseen protrusions, swayed frustratingly, threatening to dislodge loose rocks. Maria, lying flat on the ground near the edge, peered down, calling softly to the dog. "It's okay, girl. Help is here. Just hang on, hang on." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the emotional strain. Minutes stretched into an agonizing eternity. The light faded completely, leaving only the harsh beams of their headlamps cutting through the darkness. The temperature dropped. The dog down below had gone silent. Is she? Ben started, voicing the fear gripping all of them. Camera still shows breathing, Alex reported, his voice tight. She's just exhausted or losing consciousness. Finally, after countless minute adjustments, they maneuvered the sling beneath her limp body. "Okay, Ben," Maria commanded, her voice barely a whisper. "Slow lift, slow and steady." The winch groaned softly. The lines tightened. The sling began its ascent, carrying its precious, fragile cargo. Every creak of the ropes, every pebble that skittered down the shaft wall, sent fresh waves of anxiety through the team. They held their breath, praying the makeshift cradle wouldn't shift, praying the dog wouldn't panic, praying the walls wouldn't give way. Tears streamed silently down Maria's face as the sling neared the top. Tears of fear, exhaustion, and overwhelming, desperate hope. Ben's knuckles were white as he gripped the winch handle. Alex kept the lines perfectly taut, his focus absolute. Then she was there. Out of the darkness, into the beam of their lights. Lifted gently onto the tarp they had spread out. She was horrifically thin, covered in mud and smelling foully of stagnant water and infection. Her injured leg was clearly broken, swollen, and raw. Her breathing was shallow, ragged. Her eyes were closed, fluttering weakly. But she was alive. She was out. A collective sigh of relief swept through the team, immediately followed by a frantic burst of activity. Emergency protocols kicked in, wrapping her in thermal blankets, checking vitals, carefully splinting the broken leg, administering subcutaneous fluids they carried for just such emergencies. "She's hypothermic, tachycardic, severely dehydrated," Alex assessed quickly, his hands moving with practiced skill. "And this leg? It's bad. Needs a vet, ASAP." The journey back down the rough track, carrying the injured dog carefully on a makeshift stretcher, felt almost as harrowing as the rescue itself. Every jolt, every bump, elicited a low moan from their patient. Maria walked beside the stretcher, murmuring reassurances, stroking the dog's matted head whenever she dared, her heart aching with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. Getting her out was only the first miracle needed. The fight for her life was far from over. At the 24-hour emergency veterinary clinic, the waiting room felt like an extension of the rescue site. Tense, anxious, suspended between hope and despair. The veterinary team took over, rushing the dog, whom they temporarily named Echo for the way her cries had carried from the depths, into triage. Initial prognosis was guarded. Beyond the severe fracture, dehydration, and hypothermia, there was concern about internal injuries from the fall, infection from the contaminated water she might have ingested, and potential respiratory issues from the poor air quality. Maria, Alex, and Ben waited, scrubbing grime from their hands, the adrenaline slowly draining away, leaving behind bone-deep exhaustion and raw emotion. They replayed the rescue in their minds. The risks, the close calls, the sheer relief of pulling her from that hole. Tears welled up again, this time mixed tears for the suffering Echo had endured. Tears of gratitude for the successful extraction, tears of fear for the battle still ahead. "We did everything we could," Ben said quietly, voicing the mantra that kept rescuers going. "Now it's up to her," Maria added, her voice thick, "and the vets." The next few days were critical. Echo hovered precariously between life and death. She required surgery to repair her shattered leg, for fluids, antibiotics, warming treatments, and careful monitoring. She was weak, traumatized, and initially showed little will to fight, often just lying listlessly, eyes closed. The rescue team visited daily, their connection to this particular dog profound after the intensity of the rescue. They'd stand outside her oxygen kennel, watching her shallow breathing, willing her to find strength. Maria would speak softly to her, recounting the rescue, telling her how brave she was, how many people were rooting for her. "You fought so hard to stay alive down there, Echo," she'd whisper. "Keep fighting now. Please, keep fighting." And slowly, Almost imperceptibly at first, Echo began to respond. A flicker of her ears at Maria's voice. A tentative lick of water from a bowl held to her muzzle. One morning, the vet reported she had eaten a small amount of soft food on her own. It was a turning point. Her recovery was slow, marked by setbacks and small triumphs. Physical therapy for her leg was arduous. Building trust after her terrifying ordeal took immense patience from the clinic staff. But the spark that had kept her alive alone in the dark depths of the mine shaft rekindled. Her eyes lost their vacant look, replaced by cautious awareness, then flickers of gentle curiosity. The first time she managed a weak tail wag, the entire clinic staff seemed to celebrate. Echo would always bear the physical and emotional scars of her ordeal. Her leg healed with a permanent limp. Loud noises sometimes made her flinch. But she survived, against all odds, sustained by the slimmest margins of hope and the unwavering dedication of the humans who refused to give up on her. She pulled through. Her rescue remained etched in the memory of Maria, Alex, and Ben as the most difficult they had ever undertaken. A harrowing blend of technical challenge, physical danger, and profound emotional weight. It was a night defined by tears of frustration, fear, and near despair, but ultimately illuminated by the stubborn flicker of hope, the refusal to abandon a life in peril. Echo, the dog pulled from the brink, became a living symbol of that night, a testament to the incredible resilience of life and the extraordinary lengths compassionate humans will go to in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds.